Hi, my name is Lugina, and we're going to be discussing why it's so difficult for Congress to effectively manage healthcare in the United States. And we're going to be speaking about background information, some constitutional and institutional issues. We're going to be talking about failed attempts as well as possible solutions that we may use to overcome these issues. As we see in slide number 2, we can see that healthcare reform has been going on continuously for decades to come. And we have programs like Medicare and Medicaid that were used for seniors as well as low income Americans to have healthcare, but the prices continue to rise. The Affordable Care Act of 2010 tried to expand coverage as well as regulate insurance, and yet, many Americans, hundreds and millions of Americans, still are either underinsured or do not have insurance at all. The rising of drug prices, as well as the complex insurance rules, make it much more difficult to navigate, putting a lot more pressure on Congress to act, yet it's difficult for them due to, constitutional and unconstitutional challenge, as we may see in the next slide. In this slide, we're going to be talking about constitutional and unconstitutional problems that Congress may face. Congress may face many limits due to federalism, and federalism gives a good amount of control over things like Medicaid and insurance regulations to the state. And due to this, that means Congress does not have full power or authority to cover any or push out any nationwide policies. Nextly, separation of powers, which allows the presidents or the court to have the ability to either block or influence any health legislations. And for example, the Affordable Care Act of 2010, there were some issues. For example, when parts of the Affordable Care Act were challenged in the Supreme Court, it showed how the courts were able to restrict how effectively Congress could enforce major policies. And nextly, we're going to be talking about political barriers, which is on the next slide. Partisan division makes it extremely difficult for reform to come to be, as Democrats like to expand on coverage as well as, expanding support, but the Republicans are more often more conservative. They don't want to expand, they don't want to have programs like this, which makes it very difficult to come to a bipartisan. Powerful interest groups, including pharmaceutical companies and insurance lobbies, spend billions and billions of dollars in influence of legislations, as well as protect their profits. Division like this make reform more challenging, sometimes stalling reform or entirely failing it completely. And it makes Congress much more in a loophole of trying to fix the situation and managing it than finally actually getting to a solution. Like, for example, there were many policy attempts and failures, as we can see in slide 5 here. Congress has attempted multiple reforms with both good and bad results. The Affordable Care Act has faced over 70 attempts of repeal votes and multiple lawsuits, which delayed or even reversed some of the provisions that were already coming into play. The effort to make Medicare for all or even public has been a very difficult challenge due to opposition from political parties and even the projection of how costly that will become. And even smaller reforms such as drug prices are watered down even before they reach the lobby. But honestly, there is much more that we can do. In the next slide, I'm going to be talking about some possible solutions that we can use to overcome or any future outlook to overcome these issues. Looking forward, I believe that both bipartisan from both sides of the political party should start making healthcare easier to access, as well as lowering drug prices and making insurance rules clearer. And the ability to cut down on lobbying influence can encourage cooperation and help new laws to be actually passed. Big reforms naturally take time, but smaller changes can still make healthcare more affordable and fair for more people. This is my reference page, and I thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Have a wonderful day.